Today we are here to inspire you guys. We're here to encourage you.
It was designed to educate and empower our youth.
The bombing of his church in Louisville, Kentucky
mental health has been ignored in our community.
So you're carrying the DNA of royalty.
We have to put real history into our history books.
No, people, he did not drown in his own swimming pool.
When you give them hope, when you inspire them, it gives them confidence.
This is history. Everything begins in Georgia.
It is said that education makes a people easy to lead, difficult to drive, easy to govern, but impossible to enslave. This dinner was designed for youth in mind. It was designed to educate and empower our youth. So it is only fitting that they lead.
Good evening, everyone. We should be happy we're here. Aren't we happy? My name is Emanuela Alausa. I am 18 years old. I am a young author, a freelance journalist, ambassador for Reach Out to All, part of the organizing committee of the A.D. King Foundation, and also part of Relief Africa charity organization. Today we are here to inspire you guys. We're here to encourage you and to keep on the encouragement that Mr. A.D. King has also given to us.
This is my grandmother, Naomi. We call her Nani for short. And this was her husband, my grandfather, A.D. And this was his brother, Martin Luther King Jr. Everybody knows him. One thing that we all know about Martin Luther King is that he changed the world. He ended up paying for that with his life in 1968 as a result of an assassin's bullet. What most people don't know is that his brother, A.D. King, was also part of the civil rights movement and was murdered 1 year after Martin Luther King. Their sacrifices left many loved ones behind, including my grandmother, Nani. She has witnessed the consequences of violence, hatred, heartache. How does one overcome and live a life after such tragedies? Well, she will tell you.
I still have a dream.
The bottom line is, ML preached and more to make it clear that you must love everybody, you must do the right thing. He and A.D. preached that I want to do the right thing. And now, in my walker's life, is trying my best to follow in their footsteps, preaching love, forgiveness, because I think in my heart of hearts, the Lord will be pleased.
Of Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Christine Williams King. They brought love into the legacy, the love of God and the love for humanity. It took the two of them together to do it, and they did.
We must keep pressing on. We must keep pressing on.
We'll never know in our lifetime
what the real deal was on the King thing.
It's as if the King family is being tested. I've never seen a family suffer so much tragedy in my life.
I'm not going to believe Martin Luther King Jr.'s death was natural. I'm not going to believe his mother's death was natural. So there's so many questions that have been unanswered.
Here now is the true story of Alberta Christine Williams King.
On July 20th, 1969, while most of the country was glued to their television watching the Apollo 11 moon landing,
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man.
a mysterious drowning left a family in shock, and a king's legacy lost in the shadows. Was his death an accident or murder? Alfred Daniel King.
Love must be expanded, not only to our obvious enemies, but to those within ourselves.
The younger brother of Martin Luther King Jr. was set to continue his brother's legacy. But just 15 months after Martin was assassinated.
Sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis.
AD's life was cut short too. In this groundbreaking television event, we reveal the story of A.D. King, his legacy, his leadership, his death. I'm Ed Gordon. We'll tackle that question on the 50th anniversary of the King assassination with new details on the death of A.D. King. Unsolved History, Life of a King.
The Reverend A.D. Williams King was born in 1930 to Dr. and Mrs. Martin Luther King Sr.
All of a sudden, I looked at my picture window and I noticed it had begun to crack. I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, but I noticed my picture window began to crack. And simultaneously, my husband came up from the bedroom, and by the time we got to the middle of our home, the second bomb hit.
World War II veteran named Roosevelt Tatum, who introduced himself, said he lived in the neighborhood and asked if he could come in. He would like to talk with them.
Martin Luther King Jr. believed in nonviolence. He did love his neighbor as himself.
Proud of the fact that we have people like A.D. and others in the movement who gave their lives and their capacity for thought and perspective and vision to the movement.
And I think that it would be good for America and the world to see what he was able to accomplish with the help of God in his own right.
Like his brother and other members of his family, was deeply committed to end segregation.
He was more radical than what you would think.
A.D. was just as important as M.L.
That danger and death were lurking in the shadows.
He was under constant threat. People were continuing to say, "We got your brother, we're gonna get you."
So I have left yet something that you can't take away, still left with me: faith, hope, love.
I know what I heard, and I ain't gonna dispute nobody, I ain't gonna debate nobody. The emergency worker said, ain't no water in his lungs. He was dead before he hit the water. And I said, what?
Most disturbing thing to me, how a drowned man didn't have no water in his lungs.
Many people at the time that my father, Reverend A.D. King, died, expressed doubts that it was accidental. The very first reports, they tried to say that Dad had committed suicide.
There was a swimming pool in the backyard. And of course, at that particular time, I was a little afraid of water. I was only 6 years of age, and Uncle AD was a very good swimmer.
It's good for us as a family to kind of reflect back on this. We've lived with this and we've known it, but it's good to kind of pull it off the shelf.
They were determined and committed to a cause, and they were willing to pay the ultimate price.
He was at every mass meeting. His church was one of the churches that ended up as a headquarters, not only for voter registration and for demonstrations, but for training young people. So he was right in the middle of all of the movement activity and one of the real leaders.
There would be no possible, as we're filming this, black president had there not been an A.D. King, had there not been these men and women who were willing to lay their lives on the line.
Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And nothing is more frustrating than to try to push forth an idea whose time has not come. So we've talked about running for political office. Here we are in 2008 talking about electing a black president. I mean, sure enough.
All I can say to you all that don't know A.D., what a man, what a man, what a mighty man.
There is no doubt in my mind that the system killed my beloved husband, the Reverend A.D. Williams King.
He was murdered by his activism in the civil rights movement. I hope you all heard what I said.
All right, we'll start to my left and your right. Mr. Eddie Bill II, third, Eddie Bill III, Zuri Nicole King, Zoe Naomi King, Alveda King, Isaac Newton Ferris Jr., Jared Renard Ellis, Derek Barber King II, George Williams, Jaden Ellis, Darlene Ruth Celeste Bill.
My name is Jaden Ellis. I'm a college student. I'm studying finance right now. I'm 20 years old, and I'm honored to be here tonight and to be hosting for everybody.
Next up, we will have The Occasion by Dr. Babs Onabanjo. Please clap as we welcome this hardworking man.
I look into your faces and I say how beautiful you all look like today, tonight. And it's not just the beauty on the outside, but the beauty on the inside. Because you are here for a purpose, to continue to promote nonviolent social change strategy as a way of life, entrepreneurship as an engine of economic growth, and love as the ultimate goal of humanity. So I just want to say thank you for every one of you here today. Thank you. I appreciate you. It is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, friends and well-wishers, it is indeed a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you to the 13th anniversary of the A.D. King Foundation Youth Empowerment Gala. I'd like to extend our warmest thanks and appreciation to Ronald Blue Trust and Binding Financial Services. Please give them a round of applause. Our gala tonight marks the 13th anniversary of A.D. King Foundation and the 91st birthday celebration of Mrs. King. We also take this opportunity to celebrate our beloved sister and freedom fighter, Yolanda King, who happens to be the first daughter of the movement, and we'll always celebrate her together with Mrs. King. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to acknowledge my wife, as I've said earlier, and also to recognize every one of you present here tonight, especially those who have made it possible tonight for us to be here. In closing, I would like to remind you about the King family's sacrifices. And I'm going to enumerate them. The assassination of Dr. King Jr. in Memphis, the assassination of Mama King on a Sunday morning in church while playing Our Father's Prayer, the bombing of King's home parsonage in Birmingham, Alabama, now known as the National Park Service under the federal government, the bombing of his church in Louisville, Kentucky, and finally, his suspicious drowning without water in his lungs, in his own swimming pool in which he was quite familiar with, rings around his neck and bruises on his forehead on that fateful day of July 21st, 1969, just shy 9 days to his 39th birthday. Shall we stand for a moment of silence for those who have gone to glory? May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Please be seated. Close with Dr. King's quote. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of justice.
A.D. Williams King, that he was a servant of God and of his community in his own right. And he was just as much committed to the cause as his brother. And as you hear us say that, you probably say in your mind, okay, we accept you saying that, and that's your loved one, and we accept you saying that. But know that's the truth. Know that he was right there. A lot of people talk about they were there, and a lot of people were there. But one who certainly was there was Uncle A.D., who are, in terms of the struggle, probably have a higher profile. Certainly there are others than Uncle A.D. But when you look at the history, you can't find them there. And that's not to criticize them at all, but that's just to say that Uncle A.D. was there. He was there to advise. He was there to support. He was there to give the love. And I appreciate that. I do have the fortune of great memories of Uncle Emil. I did not know Dr. King. I was too young to know Dr. King. All I knew was Uncle Emil, a guy that, in our family, we generally got together in those years at our house for Thanksgiving. And so all I knew was this guy that showed up late and left early. And when he got there late, sometimes he would have to go to my room and take a nap on my bed. And I always wondered, as a little child, was this, I didn't know this phraseology then, but it was in my mind, is this the crazy uncle, right? Because like I said, he always showed up late and he left early, and when he got there, he'd have to take a nap sometimes. No, people, he did not drown in his own swimming pool. Okay, this was the man that taught me how to swim. Trust me, he did not drown in his own swimming pool. This was a man who, as a teenager, was a championship swimmer at the now closed but famous Butler Street YMCA. He did not drown in his own pool. This was a man who was committed to God. But what this foundation is doing, what Uncle A.D. did in life, was to train up the young so that they might walk in the ways of the old.
Next up, we will have our words of inspiration by Mrs. Sika Pauline Zulu Onabanjo.
I just want to say good evening, Mother Butterfly. mental health has been ignored in our community. We do not focus on mental health. We focus on he drinks too much, he's got bad behavior. Yesterday marked 2 years when my brother died. It was until he died, that's when I find out my brother had mental health. When I read 1,000 pages of the hospital chart, everything was about mental health. But we didn't know because we don't talk about it, it's taboo. So I wrote this for my brother. He was a very gifted writer, and at the end of next year, I'll be publishing his work. From the other side of heaven, his words are going to come to fruition. This is for my brother. I loved you with every fiber of my being. I was the light, but you were dimmed before you knew how bright you were. I wanted the world for you. You were my brother. As I look at you through heaven's eyes, I see the real you. This world was no longer for you. You were in so much pain. I love you with all that I had. I do not recall when that love became a noose around your neck. I did not realize that my love was suffocating you. My love became a blockage, not a bridge, to help you come across, a barrier to keep you stuck. I just wanted your brilliant mind to shine. I knew you were smart, but I wanted the world also to know how smart you were, because I already knew that. Not realizing that I was holding you hostage to your past, casting my dreams on you, using a slingshot that created a dark cloud for you. I loved everything about you. I was mesmerized by your smiles. I laughed at your lame jokes, and your laughter penetrated the heavens, and it permeated the corridors of heaven. I was selfish, for I demanded more from you, more than you could give. I knew you had a beautiful mind. I wanted the world to see that beautiful mind, just to see the glimpse of your greatness. I loved you so much that I forgot to ask you, what do you want? I wanted the world for you, but you were happy with the world that you had created for yourself. I loved you enough to let you go, to find your own path. I never wanted to impose my dreams on you any longer. You had your own dreams to contend with. Like a caterpillar, I saw your metamorphosis as you became a butterfly. Fly, fly, fly away, beautiful soul. Good night, my sweet prince. Wear your crown with pride. You have earned it. Your sister will meet you on the other side of heaven.
Next up, we will have our presentation by Adamu Arimu.
Dr. Aduke Arimu is an American icon in arts and culture, entertainment, film, production, and education. She has many accolades in her illustrious career. The Harlem Children's Theater was the first youth-inspired education and arts center formed by Dr. Aduke in New York. This company was located in the Broadway district of New York and toured the United States with youth projects, and was also invited to Nigeria for the International Arts Festival, also known as FESTAC. 25 years later, Dr. Aduke moved the Harlem Children's Theater Company to Brooklyn, New York, which houses the Brooklyn Academy of Music and the renowned Billie Holiday Theater, and produced youth productions in the United States, the Caribbean, and Europe. The company was renamed New Dove, symbolizing the peaceful presentation of arts and education projects for young people. New Dove also opened an arts business high school in Brooklyn, New York, funded by the Bill Gates Foundation. This company also produced the International Kwanzaa Festival at the New York Convention Center. Dr. Aduke Erimu set up in Atlanta 13 years ago while retaining her companies in New York and formed Aduke Erimu Productions, LLC, which specializes in theater, music, and film projects. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Aduke Erimu.
As you know, that is not the name that my mother gave me. It's the name that the Nigerians gave me. Because of the mentorship that I received from adults like you in this audience, I was able to conquer the world, obtain 3 college degrees, travel the entire continent of Africa, live in Europe for a year, raise thousands of dollars to produce theater and film for young people. So it is our responsibility as adults to hold the hands of a young person and take them through this difficult journey called life. Faith is what got me through. When I walked the streets of Nigeria in the middle of the night, or traveled through Kenya or Jamaica or Barbados, or lived in Europe, there was one guiding force that I knew that I had, and it was the Spirit of God driving me, and nobody can conquer that spirit. You are to walk the earth like you own it, because once you have the spirit of the higher supreme being, you do own the earth, and you are going to be who God intends you to be. You are one of a kind. There's nobody else on this earth like Aduke Erimu. There isn't. I'm one of a kind. You're one of a kind. You were made for a specific purpose on the earth realm, and you are to take that one-of-a-kind personality, and you are to become the best that you can be. And while you're pulling yourself through life, young people, take somebody with you. You need to take the hand of another young person, because 2 is a stronger bond than 1, 3 is a stronger bond than 2, 4 is a stronger bond than 3. It is about the collectivity energy of young people coming together on a common destiny and cause that will make you powerful. I want you to remember one thing, that there are thousands of young people over the entire world who want to meet you. There are hundreds of brothers and sisters in Africa who want to talk to you. There are hundreds of young people in South America and the Caribbean and in Europe who want to talk to you. So I want you to get on a plane and travel. Traveling changes your dimension about the world, and it changes your dimension about who you are. I am an African-American woman born in the city of Brooklyn who now have a Nigerian name, and my brothers and sisters are in Africa, Barbados, South America, Europe, all over the world. I need you to travel, because by traveling, you become powerful. And last but not least, I need you to know your history. As the Honorable Naomi King talked about her history. You must know your history. Know who you are culturally, spiritually, historically, because our civilization did not begin in the state of Georgia, nor did it begin in New York City. It began thousands of years ago. So you're carrying the DNA of royalty, of kings and queens who have already done this trip, and they did it really well.
Dr. Naomi Barber King and Dr. Babs, thank you all so very much for the Living Legend Achievement Award that you're honoring me with. However, I feel I should be honoring you for all the wonderful work that you do with all the children throughout this community. And again, thank you for this most prestigious award. Mrs. Naomi Barber King, your such an admiration to so many people. Thank you so very much. I want you to know that as a retired history teacher, I insisted on teaching Southern history. Well, actually, I want to teach Black history, and my principal said, okay, we're going to see if we can get an African American history class. And the board said, no, just stick to U.S. history. So I kind of stuck to U.S. history, but I kind of inched in information, like the death of your wonderful husband. And then the principal called me back and he says, you really want to teach African-American history, don't you? And I said, I do. He carried it back to the board and they said no. The third time he came, he says, do you really want to teach African-American history? And I said, yes, I do. He said, well, how can you do it? I said, let's call it Southern history. We called it Southern history. The board said yes. So I taught Southern history. And I had to go buy books and I had to interview people and I had to find out the depths of Southern history. And that's how I found out that your husband did not drown in the swimming pool, because I researched it. And I am so glad that you and your family are here and are teaching young people the real history, because somehow America is leaving out important parts of our history. And I am still trying to teach those important parts. And Mrs. King, I want you to know one thing, and I believe this, and my husband knows this. Without us women being by their sides, pushing them and encouraging them, and saying that it's okay to go out and do the work that you feel that you need to do, they would be hesitant about doing that work because they want to make sure their families are okay. So I want to thank you for encouraging your husband to go out and do this wonderful work. And I want to thank you and Dr. Babs for continuing to do this work throughout not only Atlanta, but throughout the world. We need to know. And by the way, there's still a fight to be fought. And that fight is we have to put real history into our history books. We have to fight for that. We sit down and we say, okay, they don't want it in the history books. So we don't say anything. Teachers don't say anything. The principals don't say anything. We have to speak up, the people. So we want the death of your husband, the truth about how he died and why he died and the work that he did while he was living. We want it in the history books, don't we, people? Yes, and let us make sure that it gets in those history books. And again, thank you all so very much. And I know I talk a lot, but that's what history teachers do. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
I will be giving the next youth award to Ayo Animashaun.
I created a platform to celebrate and elevate Afrobeat artists around the world. I am Ayo Animashaun, and I'm a change maker. We're having media credentials and ticketing. The award show is as big as it gets where we're from.
Are you ready to party tonight?
I want the world to see it. If it continues to happen in our backyard, you're not going to see them. Atlanta is the Black entertainment capital of the world, and we want a different space where these guys can breathe, and we want a mixed audience. Most important part of having an award ceremony as big as the Eddies is the people behind the production of the award itself. Some people have worked on the Eddies since day one. They won and they're still here. I started getting into entertainment 10 years old. I would listen to all the songs. Like my dad, I was daddy's little boy. He was a music lover. He was a good dancer. So I think I kind of like picked interest from him. As a little boy, I was influenced by the Western music.
At the end of the day, we were able to pull it off. I'm glad it turned out the way it did. I'm so happy that people thought it was a great show and they liked it, and the artists were really excited, and the ones that won were really happy they did.
The music guys, you can come from nowhere and be a global superstar with your music. And we want people to see that more.
And as for next year, he says he's ready to hit the ground running with hopes of bringing another award show to Atlanta.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Nadia Hayes Simmons. I am 15 years old, and I'm a native of Columbus, Georgia. I am a scriptwriter. I wrote my first script at the age of 13, titled Smiles. Due to issues that's affecting our youth, I decided to become an ambassador and advocate for mental illness, suicide, bullying, sexual assault, Roe vs. Wade, and gun violence. I am extremely honored for this award tonight. I want to thank you, Dr. Babs Onabanjo. I want to thank Miss Naomi Barber King, and I want to thank the A.D. King Foundation. Thank you, and warm blessings to you.
Miss Nadia Simmons, can you please come on stage to accept your award?
Tariba Shako is a sophomore honors student at Georgia Institute of Technology, where he's currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in computer science. One highlight of his early achievements was winning his school's oratory contest as a first grader, reciting Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech in its entirety. He then went on to win his elementary school's spelling bee, was Reader of the Year, was recognized as top math student, scored a perfect math score on the CRCT, and performed an original inspirational rap and dance at his school's talent show, using his school's high expectation of learning as a theme. Graduated at the top of his high school class, ranked 8th out of over 300 students, while also serving simultaneously as the captain of his school's track. As a result of his commitment to striving for excellence in all areas throughout his high school career, he was awarded his school's most prestigious award, the Atlanta Journal-Constitutional Cup.
My name is Tyree Barashango. I'm a second-year computer science student at Georgia Tech, and I'm honored to be here tonight, and I'm honored to receive this award. I know I wouldn't be here without the selflessness and guidance of my parents and other mentors. And I understand that not everybody has that luxury, so I wanted to take a few moments to express the importance of youth empowerment. And that's because with youth empowerment, when you empower the youth, when you give them hope, when you inspire them, it gives them confidence. And with confidence, children are able to excel in school. They're able to believe in themselves. They're able to believe that they can accomplish anything they put their mind to. When you instill confidence in them, they are able to form their own opinions instead of following the opinions of others. They're able to follow their own dreams instead of the dreams of others. And so I just wanted to encourage you all for us to continue to do our part in empowering the youth and giving them hope, whether that's through education, community engagement, or leadership, because the youth is our future and we must protect that future. Thank you.
Proud today's Gala, we had 2 days of training, and there were over at least 7 different countries involved in this training. It took 2 days, Thursday and Friday. And so some of the recipients are here today, and I'd like to recognize them with their certificates. The first is Davy Awoyemi. Could you please come forward? Yeah. Next is Awolabi Williams. Could you come forward, please? Awolabi Williams. Give it to her. Dr. Ngozi. Dr. Ngozi, are you here? Please come forward. Oluwatosin Ayo, are you here? Stay here? Okay. Dr. Cynthia Harper. Please come forward. And the last, Yinka Davids. Yinka Davids. And the last but not the least is Ayomide Ibrahim. Please give them a round of applause. Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Stone Street will do us the honor of unveiling Reverend A.D. King and Mrs. Naomi King's statue. This picture of the statue was taken during their wedding in 1950. So it is very important that we celebrate not only Mrs. King, but also Reverend A.D. Williams King. So this unveiling is very historic in its nature because we are recognizing both of their work. This monument would not have been possible without the generous donation of our best friends, and of course that credit goes to Mr. and Mrs. Stone Street. It was a dream when we started, but now it's a reality. So if you believe in your dream and you work hard at it and you pray, God will bless you and it will become a reality. So that has happened now in our presence. So Mr. and Mrs. Stone Street, can you please unveil this sculpture of Reverend A.D. and Mrs. Naomi King wedding in 1950? Please unveil.
Thank you, Ms. Naomi, and thank you, Dr. Babs, and thank you all. This is really a true honor and the best subject matter anyone could ever ask for. Ms. Naomi is such an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you.
To the Father except by me. He said, let your light shine so that men will see it and glorify your Father that's in heaven. We invite you today to let your light shine so that men will know that Jesus is Lord in your life. Oh Lord, we bless you for the light. We thank you for the truth. We thank you for the way. Father, we give you all honor and all glory and praise. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
The legislators are going to be introduced and then they will take picture with Mrs. King.
Good evening. My name is Tish Nagisi. I'm in House District 68, which is in Peachtree City, Union City, College Park, Fairburn, City of South Fulton, Fayetteville, and Tyrone.
Good evening. My name is Shegun Adeyina, House District 110, which is in Gwinnett, Grayson, Loganville, and a little bit of Snellville and Lawrenceville. And I'm glad to be here tonight, and I'm one of 5 Nigerians elected in the state of Georgia. This is history, y'all. This is history. Everything begins in Georgia.
I won't tell you that my name is Gabriel Okoye, that I am newly elected to represent the city of Lawrenceville in Gwinnett County, a little bit of Grayson.
When it comes to the A.D. King Foundation, I really think of it as a place where people who really involve the joy of service come together and put in their time, their energy, their finances to create a great cause that hopefully flourishes through the generations. This started back in 2008, and back then I was just a lowly undergrad student. But with all the drive, determination, and the love I've seen flow into this organization, part of this really flowed into my overall spirit and led me to the path of service as well. So right now I stand before you as a family medicine physician, also an HIV specialist, because of the works I've seen through this organization. I don't think you've all realized how many hours I've seen my dad stay up until like 2, 3 a.m. working, not only managing the classes he teach at this university or this college now, to really putting in a lot of sweat and tears into this organization to continue to flourish.
Everybody come on, let's praise him. Great things he's done for you and me. Come on, rejoice and be glad. All you nations, come on, let's clap. Clap, clap, clap for your hands, everybody. Shout to God with a voice of triumph. Clap, clap, clap for your hands, all you nations. Shout to God with cries of joy. Everybody, shout to God with a voice of triumph. Clap, clap, clap your hands, all you nations. Shout to God with cries of joy. Young and old, clap their hands. Rich and poor, clap their hands. Strong and weak, clap their hands. Everybody clap to the new song. Clap, clap, clap your hands, everybody. Why you wanna hate on me? I'm just a child of God. Why you wanna hate on me? Why you trying to make it so hard? I am unafraid to be a child of God. Go ahead and hate on me. I woke up in the light, trying to do what I know is right. I ain't down with your kind of choices. I ain't down with those kind of voices. No, there you go again. Talk about how I don't fit in. What's up? Maybe that's a good thing, cause I ain't about the cash or the bling. So why you wanna hate on me? I'm just a child of God. Why you wanna hate on me? Why you trying to make it so hard? I am unafraid to be a child of God. Go ahead and hate me, cause I know I'm loved by you. It's really too bad that you can't see, knowing how the truth can set you free. You must be looking through them hater shades, drinking that haterade. Got you dizzy and you're feeling dazed. There you go again, talking about how I don't fit in. I don't think that I'm better than you, but I really don't desire to do the things you do. So why? I'm just a child of God.